The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
This is episode 8A of the Finding Florida podcast on the Florida Podcast Network. Finding the Fancy in Fort Lauderdale, the preview.
Welcome to Finding Florida, the podcast that takes you from country to the coast. Join your tour guides, an unlikely pair, city girl Jemmy and country boy Glenn, as they explore the amazing sights and sounds of the Sunshine State.
Well, thank you for joining us on this lead up to our 8th adventure on the Finding Florida podcast. I really can't believe we're at 8 already. We just started this show.
I know.
On this next adventure, we head down Jemmy's way and we took a road trip to Fort Lauderdale, where we found all kinds of fancy fun things to do, from spa treatments to drinking at a bar with mermaids. Yep, you heard that right.
That's right. So all of the audio from that fun adventure of Finding the Fancy in Fort Lauderdale will be on the next episode, 8B, and we had so much fun. In fact, here are a few quick clips.
When you shower, if you go swimming.
It's like sloughing off your skin like a reptile.
Yes, you're like a snake. I have eaten fire once, and it was with a beard. That was kind of tricky.
Replay. Let's do it again tonight. There's a bar on the boat. Hello. You know I love that.
He has had a few at this point.
Don't tell my parents.
Lemurs are really like Jemmy.
Let that mean whatever you want it to
They
mean.
took a liking to Jemmy, the lemurs did.
I am the animal whisperer.
Yes, you are. You do seem to attract them.
Us Aquaticats, we stay true. So you will see no nose plugs, no air hoses, no goggles, zero common sense. We get a little crazy.
Woo! That's awesome. But on this episode, we are talking about the revitalization and re-imaging of Fort Lauderdale, which is a cooperative effort by the businesses down there. And then we'll get into a whole bunch of other fun Florida stuff, including a sweet cocktail recipe, super creepy critter stories, the much beloved Florida segment, and the Community Clipboard. Listen in.
Highlight, big business, small business, and excitement you'll really flip for. Greater Fort Lauderdale.
A great place to visit, but a greater place to live.
We make Florida shine.
It's the greatest.
Those forts and the city that would thrive along the New River would bear Major Lauderdale's name. This is the history of Fort Lauderdale.
Well, some fun facts and history about Fort Lauderdale as we take a look at
favorite
your town. You know, Fort Lauderdale is 28 miles north of Miami on the coast. It's the county seat of Broward County, which many people are familiar with after a certain election.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about such things.
Population of about 170,000. And there are 12 million visitors a year to Fort Lauderdale, believe it or not.
A lot of visitors.
It's a lot of visitors. Has over 560 hotels with 35,000 rooms. Wow. And I think we passed most of them on our travels, actually.
They all have an amazing view. No matter which room, they all have an amazing view of something.
46 different cruise ships sailed out of Port Everglades last year.
Yeah. I mean, it's a busy one.
And big cruise ships. 4,000 restaurants. Get that. 4,000 restaurants in a town of 170,000
And I bet
people.
you 3,998 of them are all seafood.
Yeah, so true. There's 63 golf courses, 12 shopping malls, which Jemmy knows nothing about. 16 museums, 132 nightclubs.
No, nothing about those either.
100 marinas housing 45,000 yachts.
Wow.
And we saw a lot of them.
I really wonder what the stat would be on how many of those are out on the ocean, like actually actively being used for more than a week of time out of the entire year. Because you know there are a bunch of them that just sit there.
That none of them are out. Just sit there. The area in which Fort Lauderdale sits was founded and inhabited more than 2,000 years ago by the Tequesta Indians. Now, they went away when the Spanish showed up, as most of history shows. But Fort Lauderdale is actually named after a series of forts that were built by the United States during the Second Seminole War. All of our adventures come back and tie into each other, don't they?
I know, right? This should be just called Finding the Seminoles. That's what the show should be called.
Every place we go, the Seminoles are involved. The forts took their name from Major William Lauderdale, younger brother to Lieutenant Colonel James Lauderdale. William was commander of the detachment of soldiers who built the first fort. However, development of the city did not begin until 50 years later after the forts were abandoned at the end of the Seminole War. They were abandoned in 1842. That area remained virtually unpopulated, it's hard to believe, until the 1890s. And you'll discover this. We didn't get to do it on this trip, but the Stranahan House is there.
Yeah, it's one of those attractions on Las Olas. And we didn't get to stop, so we'll get to stop another time. Yeah.
Frank Stranahan arrived in the area in 1893 to operate a ferry across the New River, which we were on.
Hey, and the Florida Jungle Queen. Do you think it was the Jungle Queen? Was it around back then?
It's around shortly after that, actually. And the Florida's East Coast Railroad completed a route into the area in 1896, and that's when development really began. When World War II began, Fort Lauderdale became a major U.S. base with a naval air station there, training pilots. The Coast Guard was based there at Port Everglades during World War II as well. So I was curious how Fort Lauderdale became the college
It earned its reputation for a reason. Like there has to be a story or series of stories or something behind that.
There was, and it involved a movie, actually. Fort Lauderdale was the setting for the annual College Swim Forum in the 1930s, and during World War II, college students looking for an escape began flocking to Fort Lauderdale shores in the 40s and especially in the 50s. But it wasn't big time until a 1960 movie called Where the Boys Are. And what it did is it highlighted all the college kids coming in the spring to Fort Lauderdale. And the movie followed a group of girlfriends as they looked for love and fun in Fort Lauderdale, like a lot of movies have since then. Well, that put Fort Lauderdale on the map in 1960. Get this. Black and white news footage shows spring breakers packing into hotel and motel balconies and crowding the beaches.
Wow.
50,000 college students invaded Fort Lauderdale the following spring after the movie came out.
The power of film, man.
Back then, you had to go to the movies to see the movie.
Exactly. And so people probably saw this amazing beach on the silver screen and thought, I want to see it in person. So
I'm sure lots of hot girls in bikinis were even in the movie and Where the Boys Are in 1960.
They probably lost their minds seeing hot girls in bikinis
that exists.
on the screen. Lost their mind. Just about as much as you lost your mind watching The Mermaids.
50,000 showed up that next spring, and that's where it started.
There you go. And it was definitely a party town for quite some time, but it is nice to see them sloughing off all that stuff.
Speaking of which, that takes us to our interview.
Yeah, we got to talk with Ari from My Fort Lauderdale Beaches. All right, so we want to introduce you to Ari Glassman from My Fort Lauderdale Beaches. She was the lovely lady responsible for the hotel hop that you guys are going to hear in the next episode. We got to take a little bit of a tour through some fancy hotels and experiences right there along Fort Lauderdale Beach. Thanks greatly, pretty much exclusively, to this lady here, Ari. Hello, Ari, and welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you so much. So great to have you here on Fort Lauderdale Beach with us.
Oh my gosh, it was awesome to be there. I grew up in the Fort Lauderdale area, went to high school there. So my partying when I was a teenager, young 20 girl, it's a much different experience than what I got to do this time. I loved it a lot more, I can say. I don't know if that's my maturity speaking or what, but I loved being pampered and shown around.
Ari, I think that's really less alcohol consumption than usual.
Yeah.
I think that's
well,
really
I was going to say, hopefully you were over 21 when you were doing that.
No comment. No comment.
Clarify that.
But yeah, I mean, what you guys had us do was fantastic. We can't wait for our listeners to hear it in the next episode. It's going to be what a time, and what a group of people that you got us connected with. We just loved it. So thank you. And it all starts with an awesome website. You guys have really done a lot. I mean, just from the website itself, there's so many resources on there. You list all kinds of things to do, places to stay. Tell us a little bit about the website itself and how that all kind of came to be.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, myfortlauderdalebeach.com. It's a mouthful, but it's kind of easy to remember. It's just the my and how we can personalize your experience on Fort Lauderdale Beach. Mm-hmm. It is a mobile website, also, desktop and laptop and tablets and phones. We want you to use it, but it is the portal for the entire barrier island on Fort Lauderdale Beach. So intercoastal to ocean, 17th Street Causeway to Sunrise Boulevard. All of the properties, all of the attractions, restaurants, bars are listed on there. We've got a very robust calendar for everyone to go and see what's going on, both on the beach and down the boulevard and a little bit beyond into our theater district and Las Olas shopping district as well. But this is sponsored by our beach business community, our City of Fort Lauderdale's Beach Improvement District, and been managing this for going on a little over 4 years now. We've got our social channels and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook pages all linked up to it. But we really wanted to have just a comprehensive guide. So when people were either planning their stay on Fort Lauderdale Beach or while they were here visiting, they could traverse the island and find out where to go and what to do and discover, and great places to dine, stay, and play.
It was Glenn's first time able to be on those beaches and in that whole area. So
yeah, it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed it thoroughly, and we get to see a lot of beaches, and I really liked the accessibility of this one, but not only that, it's just a really nice beach sand-wise. There's not a lot of crap on it. Some of the beaches you go to, they're just full of seaweed and all kinds of stuff. And for me, I just want a clean beach. So I really like that.
Beautiful. And you can see every building we went to had just an amazing view of, it's just so beautiful out there. So, man, what a time. It was a good time. And what I also like about, the way you guys have organized the site. So if you're coming into Fort Lauderdale Beach area for the first time or for the 100th time, you can look up things to do based on a theme. You guys have that whole blog, the My FTLB Insider section of the site, where you can go by, you can look based on adventure or romance or eco-friendly stuff or, party things or family-centric stuff. So there's so many categories, what you're looking for. Who writes those? Who puts all of that together?
Well, I've got the great team. I call it the team of three. It's the me, myself, and I. But all of the businesses along Fort Lauderdale Beach also contribute to it. So we do ask them to send us news and different things that are going on that we can put into that My Fort Lauderdale Beach Insider. We've got a newsletter folks can sign up for that we send out once a month and gives a little bit of a backstory to different new things that are coming up or what will be on the horizon. We also do contests and giveaways here and there when we have the large scale events that are coming down into the area. So coming up, we've got a giveaway in June for the Rum Renaissance Festival. And then we've got a great program also during our free concert series, which is Friday Night Soundwaves, that takes place every Friday night on Las Olas Boulevard and A1A, so you can dip your toes in the sand while you're listening to some great music. And we've got our Summer Lovin' giveaway taking place June 22nd all the way through September 21st. So folks can come down and enjoy a free concert. It's very family friendly, but they can register to win some great prizes and experience our properties that way too. And I love that you pointed out the fact about our clean beaches, because Fort Lauderdale is one of the few beaches in the area, and actually Broward County, that's been classified as the Blue Wave certified beach. And it really is based on a number of different things, but the cleanliness is part of it. And our community really takes pride in that. We have several organizations that do beach sweeps. We have a second Saturday beach sweep that the public is more than welcome to come out and help keep our beaches clean. But, it is what brings people down. Everybody wants to come and enjoy the surf and sand and the sea, but we also like to show people, especially through the site, that we are more than just sand and sun. There are a ton of things to do on Fort Lauderdale Beach, from live music to family-friendly events to things for nature lovers, fitness buffs. We do free yoga on the beach. I want to say there's 14 free yoga classes that take place every week. So, it really is an exciting destination.
I did one every morning.
Your own
I was out there at 6 o'clock doing the yoga on the beach. You should have seen me doing those moves.
Yeah.
That down dog, I know.
Totally believe you.
Hey, I wanted, one of the things that came up while we were there, and we have a lot of our listeners are cruisers. They love cruises. Mm-hmm. And of course, a lot of people leave out of Fort Lauderdale, and you guys are relatively close to the cruise port. And one of the things that happens with cruises is you get back or you're leaving and you get in a day early and you want to stay over at the beach, or you get back and you want to stay a day after to catch your flight or whatever. Mm-hmm. Fort Lauderdale Beach is the perfect place to do that, right?
It really is. We are so close to the port. There are several, besides Uber and Lyft and, some of the ride-sharing programs, we have a trolley system that will take you right from the cruise port over to Fort Lauderdale Beach. It's less than a 7-minute drive.
Wow.
We're about 4 miles from tip to toe, as we call it, on the barrier island. But there are 2 spas. You actually were at the Westin. There's the Atlantic as well, that have these great day passes and resort passes. So for anywhere from $25 to $40 per person, it varies by days. You can utilize all the spas, the pool deck, the showers that are in there, the fitness facilities. But a number of the restaurants, too, are really accommodating. So if you have your luggage and you're coming before you do head over to the airport, if you're in between, pop your luggage, go have lunch, go just enjoy the scenery. There are also hotels, a few of them. We're planning on putting this. The website's in a little bit. We're updating it. We have to keep updating because so much content. But yeah, there's a number of hotels that do day rates so that you can just go in for the day and catch a little, rest. There's some great small superior lodging hotels and some of the Art Deco hotels. Mm-hmm. But over the North Beach Village area. But yeah, or spend another couple of days in Fort Lauderdale. I mean, it's very affordable, especially for guests that are coming in the summertime. Fort Lauderdale, all of it, but especially, on Fort Lauderdale Beach, we're on sale. We've got Vacation Link of VIP now, so you've got some great rates at the Luxury Resort Collection hotels. And our CVB also has, that you can download from our site or on sunny.org, the 2-for-1 savings pass. So there are attractions and different things that you can do where it's 2-for-1. So a great time to be here.
There is so much to do. And we know that Fort Lauderdale has really been focused on revitalizing and just remaking its image. And I think what you are doing to contribute to all of that is absolutely amazing. We got to see it firsthand and the power of all that cooperation amongst all the businesses down there and the attractions. So thank you again to you for all your help. And where can people go to find more information? What's the website one more time?
Yeah, definitely. It's myfortlauderdalebeach.com.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you.
myfortlauderdalebeach.com. The big events, the small events, and everything that you can do in this area.
Well, you have to tune in to 8B, which will be out in a day or two. It'll be on all of your feeds, and you're going to hear all of the sounds from our Finding the Fancy in Fort Lauderdale.
Before we get to talking about everything else that's going on in the state of Florida right now, we have a big announcement to make. I want to personally welcome Glenn on board. He is now an official member of the Florida Podcast Network team. I am so excited to have him as my right-hand person, making sure that I don't lose my mind as we're trying to build this thing up. So welcome to Glenn on becoming an official member.
Yay! Actually, what really happened is, if anybody used to watch MASH, did you ever see MASH?
A long time
Radar.
ago.
Yeah, Radar O'Reilly would stick something under the colonel's nose and
no
say,
idea what you're talking about.
and say, don't read this, just sign it. And that's what she did. I was down there. She said, here's some documents, sign it quick.
That's actually kind of accurate. I kind of put it in a pile. It just said signature here, signature there, signature here.
I'm glad to be on board. The Florida Podcast Network is going to be amazing over the next couple of years. It's going to be one of the biggest podcast networks in the world.
We really have a lot of big things going on. So it's exciting to have you on board.
Lots of plans.
Yeah. All right. Just a quick reminder that the Florida Podcast Network, speaking of which, has a brand new website. Head over to FloridaPodcastNetwork.com to see the facelift for yourself. It's now full of episodes from all of the shows, including the Directory Dial-Ups, where I interview other podcasters from Florida. And Glenn is the latest guest on that show, so go check that out. It includes fun facts and local feedback about Florida, links to all the network's social media, information on how to partner with us, including our brand new media kit, and so much more. So take a peek at FloridaPodcastNetwork.com. That's FloridaPodcastNetwork.com.
And just one more thing. We also want to thank all of you who send us comments, whether on social media or website or through email. You can email us, by the way, at JAIME or Glenn with 2 N's at FloridaPodcastNetwork.com. We really appreciate all your notes, ideas, and feedback.
So guess what time it is, Glenn?
What time is it?
It is time for us to find out more fun stuff about the rest of the state of Florida.
We need the sunshine and palm trees of Florida. Florida, when you need it bad, we've got it good. When you need it bad, come to Florida, we need it bad.
So good and tasty. Tastes good.
On our trip to Fort Lauderdale, we got a great tour of the Bonnet House, which you'll hear all about. But one thing they pointed out was that the original owners created a treat called the Rangpur Lime Cocktail. So, Glenn, what is the scoop on the Rangpur Lime?
Well, the Rangpur lime is an exotic tree imported from India to Florida in 1887, and I'm sure you have one in your backyard.
All
Jemmy.
of us do.
Yes, it's actually a fruit that's small to medium size and kind of resembles a mandarin orange more than a lime.
Yeah.
Has a thin yellow to orange skin cover and a juicy orange-red fruit inside.
Kind of like a mini grapefruit.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
That's a good description. It's one of the special ingredients of Mrs. Bartlett's own Rangpur Lime cocktail, a drink that she shared for decades with friends at the Bonnet House, making it a tradition because she could afford to apparently have them shipped in on a train car.
Which must be nice.
Yeah. You have that done all the time. You
All
should
the
ship
time,
one in on a
every
train.
day, all the time.
Yeah, call Amazon. I'm sure they have some Rangpur limes.
Sure, just no problem. Actually, they wouldn't be surprised at Amazon.
Look that up.
You'll probably find it. All right, so here are the ingredients. It is 4 parts Barbados Eclipse dark rum, already starting off on a really good foot. Sounds delicious. 1 part fresh Rangpur lime juice, and you sweeten it to taste with Vermont maple syrup. So you combine the rum and lime juice in a pitcher and mix really well, and then you add enough syrup to sweeten to taste and cover and chill until it's ready to serve. And you pour it over some crushed ice in a short glass. We're going to show a picture of it in the show notes. It's making my mouth water, Glenn.
You can get them at Amazon. You can actually get the Rangpur lime syrup at Amazon.
Looked it up?
I did. You can also get the seeds to plant your own trees if you're interested.
There you go. And so now that you know where to find all the ingredients, we'll be including the recipe in the show notes. Thanks again to FPN insider Steve Heath for submitting our last mystery sound from episode 7A. We're going to replay it for you. Let's replay that, Glenn.
I can see the video, so it's funnier. And the dramatic reveal, it was
manatees! But remember that the answer wasn't just what they were, but that also was what they were doing.
Bathing.
Pretty well. That's what they always do, right? They're always in the water. But he's actually...
Knowing you, I would say it's manatees making love, because that seems to be a trend with your mystery sounds.
Theme. Unfortunately, no. It's a lot more mundane than that. He's eating. Just putting his cute little lips to the cute little grass, and he's just going to town. It's a really adorable video. We'll include the link to the video in the show notes as well.
Officer in need of assistance from animal control.
And now we go from the super cute to the super creepy. Oh my gosh, Glenn, I know we've discussed this story before. It went viral. We talked about this.
Oh, you're not going to talk about this, are you?
Yes, can I not? I mean, come on. So Katie Holly, 29 of Melbourne, Florida. Oh, if you haven't heard this story before, brace yourself because it is a doozy. She woke up one night and felt something in her ear that she thought was a piece of ice, which makes no sense. But you know that groggy feeling you get when you're like half awake? You're like, and so she gets up, puts like a cotton swab in her ear, and something starts moving. I can't. I'm getting the heebie-jeebies just sharing the story. It's just gross. So it turns out there were some little legs. Because there was a palmetto bug.
Okay, and for those that don't live in Florida, palmetto bug is basically a cockroach.
A massive cockroach with wings, okay? It's not just a cockroach, it's a massive cockroach with wings. And the funny thing about I don't know if it's funny, funny, but interesting thing about cockroaches is that apparently they love the taste of earwax.
Oh, I'm never going to sleep again.
So I found her ear, was like, heck yes, this is a great buffet with my name all over it. And it looked around and said, hey, no more of my buddies are around. I got this ear all to myself. And then the other thing about cockroaches that you need to keep in mind, they can't move backwards. So once
if they flip over, they can't turn and right themselves either.
Well, the thing is that once they start burrowing into your ear, they can't back themselves out. There's one way in, and that's it.
I can't believe you're doing this story.
This palmetto bug dug itself all the way into her ear. Her husband tried to get out with some tweezers. Didn't have any luck. I know. They go to the emergency room.
Can we talk about the pain, by the way?
Oh, God, I can only imagine. So at the emergency room, the nurse injects the bug with lidocaine, which was supposed to kill it. And she felt it moving around a couple more minutes, and basically it died, right? And so they then pull out what they
want to shoot it with a shotgun. Thank you.
That's in your ear. Good luck with that. So then they pull out as many of the pieces and everything that they think is left. But for another week, she was still in a lot of discomfort and what is going on? So her general doctor ended up getting her over to an ENT who, get this, extracted a head, a torso, and limbs and antenna of a full-grown palmetto bug. So the most of the bug was still stuck in her ear after the emergency room for a whole nother week.
I would never sleep again in my entire life.
Gosh. So I was listening to this story and it was give me the heebie-jeebies, but then it made me think of the creepy insect moments that I've had. We live here in Florida. It's bug capital of the world. Sometimes it feels like, and I know you've lived in farm country all over. So I thought we could just share some gross insect stories. Do you want to hear mine first or do you want to go first?
Yeah, you go ahead.
All right. So I remember when I was a kid.
After this one, I can't wait.
Though mine's nothing compared to poor Katie's story. But when I was a kid, I was maybe 8 or something. And we had a pool in our backyard. So we're all playing in the pool, having a good time. It was probably summer day or whatever. And I had to go to the bathroom. So I was not a kid who peed in the pool. Okay. I actually knew better than that. And I got out of the pool and walked into the house to go to the bathroom. Well, I sit down on the toilet and do my thing. And then I reach out for toilet paper. And as I'm reaching out for toilet paper, I see something on my arm. That was one of the most disgusting. It was the biggest bug I've ever seen in my entire life with legs for days. So I want you right now to Google house centipede. So you can see this picture, Glenn. Google house centipede. This is the thing for anybody else. We will also include a picture of this in the show notes. And if you're very familiar with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, there is a scene where the prissy lady, talk about fancy, has to stick her hand in a hole to try to release a lever, and it's crawling with bugs, and this centipede crawls on her. It was like that. It was so disgusting. And just sitting there, probably.
What did you break on the way out of the bathroom?
Oh my God. I think I just snatched at it and threw it. And I was so convinced that this massive, crazy thing must be poisonous, or I don't know, but I scratched at my arm so hard that for the longest time, I actually had a scar up and down my arm because of how freaked out I got and scratched. By the way, it's nice to know 30 years later, house centipedes are completely harmless. But at the time, I totally freaked out of this thing on my arm. And I was vulnerable. I was on the toilet. It was awful.
Can I also have or before I get to my story, a piece of advice when you're coming to Florida if you're not from here.
Yes, please do.
And because of these palmetto bugs, which we try and call palmetto bugs because thinking of them as cockroaches grosses us out.
And it's just, it doesn't do it justice.
No, it doesn't. When you go to the bathroom here, whether the seat's up or down, pick the seat up and down and look up above it and below it before you sit. Just saying.
I have a feeling this is bringing back memories.
There might have been a story involved in that, but I'm not telling it.
I want to hear the story you are going to share.
Well, I got one for you. Okay. So my brother actually there's two quick stories. My brother actually had this happen to him with a flying insect in Pennsylvania, and he ended up 3 days in the hospital because something got into his ear and burrowed in there. No. And it was a wasp. They found a wasp then eventually in there.
A wasp in your, thank God he's not allergic.
He ended up,
I'm assuming.
He almost went nuts because when you have something that's pounding on your eardrum like that, it's horrendous. It's loud. It's horrendous. It's awful. And he spent 3 days in the hospital because of that.
Living in your head.
Yes. So my story is we had an old farmhouse in Pennsylvania that we moved into when I first met my wife. And it was old. It was an old farmhouse, 100 years old, hadn't been renovated much. The upstairs had no heat. It was an old coal furnace that barely worked. Mm-hmm. So we were upstairs in summertime, no air conditioning, hot as heck. And we were sleeping upstairs in the summertime because there were 4 little rooms upstairs like an old farmhouse had. Mm-hmm. But the problem was every time we go up during the day, I kept saying to Jennifer, the room right next to our bedroom where we get dressed has a humming. There's a humming. And we thought it was electrical, whatever. Right. And then, we kept ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it. Finally, a couple of weeks later, I said, it's humming more than it used to. It's getting to be summertime now. So I took a hammer and I put a hole in the wall.
Wait a minute. Were you on the inside when you did this stupid thing, or were you on the outside?
It's in our bedroom. So I took the hammer and I just pounded a hole in the wall, and immediately about 100 bees come flying out of the hole.
Bees?
Wasps. They were wasps that
and I'm sure they were very not happy to see you.
They were called mud wasps, and they make these mud kind of nests.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, immediately we freaked out, and then I plugged the hole, and we didn't have enough wasp spray, so we went into town, got wasp spray, and brought it back. And I said, well, we're just going to spray multiple cans of wasp. We bought like a case, and we just started drenching the hole with wasp spray. Can after can after can of wasp spray. And then the humming slowed down a little and got slower. And I said, well, it's not gone.
No, so, they were having a meeting on how to strategize against the next battle.
So I punched another hole in the wall further down, and we loaded it with wasp spray, and more wasps came out. Finally, when we were done with cans and cans, like a case of wasp spray, the humming stopped, and we tore the wall apart. And inside the wall, the entire wall, all 6 feet of it, was wasp nests. No. We were sleeping beside what must have been thousands of wasps.
Oof. Oh, that's horrific. Oh, my God. Oh, thank God for wasps. Thank God the store had enough. Clean them out, I bet.
Yeah, that was kind of freaky.
Oh, man.
We were cleaning them with the shovel. That many fell dead out of the walls. Shovel.
God. Well, I am thoroughly grossed out. But I have no one to blame.
Thank you, everybody.
Myself.
We appreciate you hanging on this long.
Stupid segment was my idea.
Yeah, anyway.
Go! 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 Go!
And now onto the craziest Florida animal of them all, the human. So, Glenn, we had 2 very interesting arrests happen recently in Florida, and I would like to introduce you to both of these stellar examples of men, because you're going to need to guess them as the answers in today's Flori-DUH game. Yes, that's right. I will play you a clip from their arrest, and you have to guess which man's arrest it was from. Capiche?
Okay.
Got it? Okay, cool. Here we go. So contestant number 1 is Paul Daniel Smith. Now, Paul Daniel Smith was arrested in the swamp back in April 17th, north of Tampa Bay area, where we just were, in Pasco County. Now, his arrest has gone viral because at one point, all you can see of him in the swamp is his seemingly disembodied head poking out of the mud. That's right. A Florida swamp full of all kinds of things like gators and snakes and bugs, you name it. He thought that was his best option. So he dove right into it and got arrested in there. I'm not really sure what he was arrested for, since it really only says that he ran into the swamp after deputies spotted his vehicle speeding and realized it was involved in another case in Hernando County, but it doesn't really say what the case was. Anyways, but they gave him chase. He jumps out, runs into the swamp. That's his arrest. Paul Daniel Smith, the Swamp Man. That is contestant number 1. All right. And contestant number 2 is John T. Greenwood. So John T. Greenwood was arrested on May 11th at the Daytona Beach International Airport. Now, his arrest has gone viral because, well, you can kind of see all of him. Yes, he was naked at the airport, running around and causing all kinds of ruckus. He was also then claiming that he had planted a bomb in the terminal bathroom. But when authorities checked, it turned out to be nothing more than his balled up missing clothes in the wall. And not just any bathroom, by the way, the women's bathroom. But in his defense, it was under construction, so not so bad, right? That is John T. Greenwood, the naked airport bomb man. Okay, so are you ready for some clips of their arrests, Glenn?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Clip number 1 is kind of a layup if you're paying attention to the details of each story, but it's just kind of to get you going on the game. Okay, so play the first clip.
Put on your belly. Get on your belly. Turn around, get on your belly, you're getting tased.
Okay, that had to be the guy in the airport.
Ding, 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 you're right.
If they were tasing the guy in the swamp, he'd be electrocuted, I think, and be dead.
Well, I thought the clue was just when they're like, get on your belly, because nobody wants to deal with that.
Yeah. Why am I never at the airport when that kind of good stuff happens?
I know, right? Gosh. Hey, at least there were cameras rolling. Oh, yes, there is video footage of all of this. It's awesome.
I bet there is.
All right, let's try clip number 2. Play that clip.
I don't need evac, man. I do not need, I just want to get out of here, bro. I'll go to jail. I'll go wherever the hell you want me to go, man. Book me, but get me the hell out of here, please.
Oh, he had to be in the swamp. So he eventually did realize it was a bad idea at some point.
Wait a minute. So your guess is that was the swamp man?
Yes.
That was still the naked airport
really?
guy. I know, right?
Okay, you got me on that one.
Yeah, I sure did. All right, so here is clip number 3.
Stop resisting, all right? Listen, I know. You're coming out, okay? I know that. All right. So stop being stupid and let's get out. I'm trying to. Cuff him. Let me get up, please. You got cuffs? Yeah. Stop.
Did you catch the end? He goes, stop. That
had to be swamp guy. Here, he's worried about that. He's been in a swamp.
Ding, ding, ding. It was.
I heard the helicopters too.
So the reason he goes stop at the end is because the police dog Knox is the one who helped find them, right? So he approaches him. This guy is submerged in the swamp, face out, and here comes the dog, starts licking his face. The guy's totally underwater. Dog just starts licking his face. It's hilarious. All right, clip number 4.
Give me a hand or you're going to get tased, bro. I don't care. I don't care. I go to the hospital, right? Yeah. All right. Tase me. Tase me. Give me your other hand. Tase me. Give us your other hand. Stop being an idiot.
Stop being an idiot.
He wanted to go to the hospital, I guess.
So was that the arrest of contestant number 1, the swamp man, or number 2, the naked
swamp
airport
guy?
Very good. It was the swamp guy again. All right, and last clip number 5.
I guess he figured the hospital was better than prison. I don't know. Jail.
I mean, I just don't understand how he didn't get out of there with like a big alligator bite or something. Like, come on. The alligators must have been sitting there like, really? Lunch came to us? This is awesome.
Or they looked at him and said, I don't even want that for lunch.
This is true. This is true. He has a reputation. We don't want him.
Yeah.
We don't know where he's been.
Oh, there's the tasing.
Stop resisting. What are you on, man?
Was that the naked airport guy and the swamp guy?
I'm going to guess Swamp Guy again because he really wanted to get tased.
He did, but it was the naked airport guy.
Really? Well, he went to the hospital too, I guess.
I guess so. But yeah, you just never know. So getting arrested naked in the airport versus getting arrested in the swamp. Either way, you're just an idiot, man. And of course, we will include links to both stories in the show notes so you can see the full arrest videos yourself. All right, so this is the very first edition of the Community Clipboard, and I just saw this list of the 2018 best Florida beach bars around, and it's from FloridaBeachBar.com, ironically enough. And I saw this kind of start to be voted on, and there was a local bar that I was really excited to vote for. And so they just released the results April 28th. So I wanted to see and give our listeners the rundown of what people voted on as the 2018 best Florida beach bars and see if you guys agree with this list or not. So,
and also how many of these Jemmy has frequented.
And gotten kicked out of. Never happens. Oh my God. I swear, I'm not a lot.
Not anymore.
Exactly. All right. So coming in at number 10, we have Tortuga's Kitchen and Bar, and that is in Flagler Beach. I've never been to Flagler Beach, but they have 2 bars represented on this list, so it's got to be someplace fun to go.
Road trip.
Exactly. There we go. We'll just go back and forth between the 2 choices. There's Juana's Pagodas, at least I think that's how it's pronounced. It's Juana Pagodas in Navarre Beach. Do you know where that is, Navarre Beach?
No, I do not.
I've never heard of that either, but I'm very curious now. All right, there's the Flora-Bama, Perdido Key. Some of these places I just want to call up and be like, where did these names come from? The Flora-Bama, those two words, and Perdido Key. Then there's the Casino Beach Bar in Pensacola. And coming at number 6 is Racing's North Turn in Ponce Inlet. Is Ponce
and that's near Daytona Beach.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Right.
It's got to be known for something with racing. That makes a lot of sense.
That's near Daytona Beach, and that's where the Ponce Lighthouse is, too.
Oh,
right at the
now
tip.
It all comes
it was
together
south
in
of
my
where
brain.
we were.
It all comes together in my brain. I got it now.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And
so
that's where they used to make the turn.
Oh, well, then there you go. Then all makes sense. So the Racing's North Turn. Oh, that's right. I remember this now.
Right before I broke my ribs, we learned about this.
We're not supposed to let anyone know how you broke your ribs, when, where.
No, but we did learn about it right before I broke my ribs.
This is true. All right. So now we get into our top 5 Florida beach bars. And number 5 is the Lemon Bar in Neptune Beach. I think they need to try something with the Rancor limes. If they're celebrating citrus, maybe we should give them a call and send them over this recipe.
That's right.
And then there's Bongo's Beach Bar in St. Pete. St. Pete's someplace I've never been either. I know you have, right?
Yeah, we just got done. We were there for a couple days.
Yeah. Okay, so then the second bar that's represented from out of Flagler Beach comes in at number 3. It is the Golden Lion Cafe, which just sounds like a kind of place where you go in a suit and you drink like Goldschlager, but like the cool new updated version of Goldschlager. I don't know what that would be, but something really cool. And like 007 should be walking out at any moment. But Golden Lion Cafe sounds really, really cool. And this is another place that I've heard of, but again, never been. It's also out of St. Pete. It's called Jimmy B's.
You are wrong
on the
on
Golden
that
Lion?
Yes.
What is your impression?
And they do have a beach cam too. If you want to, they have a Golden Lion cam, so you can check them out live.
So what do they look like? How would you describe Golden
It's a
Lion?
beach bar. It looks like a typical beach bar with a tiki hut and things like that.
So flip-flops more, tuxedos less?
Flip flop.
Okay, I don't know who would wear a tuxedo to a beach anyway, but whatever. It was in my head. So yeah, number 2 is Jimmy B's Beach Bar in St. Pete. And the number 1 spot goes to a place out in Venice, and it is called Sharky's on the Pier. So I'm excited to go check out Sharky's on the Pier. You know what I'm thinking when I look at this list, Glenn?
Mm-hmm. Road trip.
This whole thing is it's a road trip in the making.
We need a driver, though. We need somebody to drive.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you can't force me to be the drinker on this like you always do. You always force feed me the beverages, and it's no longer going to be accepted. If the whole adventure is about drinking, you have to pull your weight, Glenn. So anyways, if you are in the area of any one of these spots, then go in and patronize them and tell them congratulations because they have made the 2018 Best Florida Beach Bars list. So yay to them. Well, thanks for coming along with us once again as we are finding Florida.
There are so many high-end luxury experiences to have in Fort Lauderdale, and you just got a sneak peek inside our Fun Adventure episode that will be coming out in the next couple of days. Check out 8B. And for our adventure next month, we head to our state capital of Tallahassee. You know, I don't know if what we'll be doing is political, but I have my doubts.
It'll be politically incorrect. It's probably,
yeah, that's right.
Probably
that's what it'll be. That's the thing we can promise is, and maybe we'll be the first ones kicked out of the state capital of Tallahassee. We'll
banned
see.
For life. We'll try not to, but it makes for a good show.
Yeah, that's right. But on the very next episode, we're finding the fancy in Fort Lauderdale.
And once again, to find us on social media, just head to findingfloridapodcast.com for all the links or search for Find FL Podcast. Hook up with our new Finding Florida Podcast YouTube channel for behind-the-scenes videos of our adventures.
And here's to your next adventure. By the
Tequesta. For crying out loud, Tequesta.
3, 2, 1. About the fun, fancy adventures and the sounds from our fancy... 3, 2, 1.
Too long.
Oh. 3, 2, 1. Are you doing this for the show?
Yeah, it's kind of... Never mind. Okay. Over the last line. I thought you were trying to throw it to me to...
Oh, no, I did. I was done.
Damn it.
No bloopers today. Perfect. We were so good.